Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another programming lesson. Let's take a look here. I want you to think of some things. I'm going to introduce you to something that we have not talked about yet. And so here's what I want you to imagine. Here's our scenario. Imagine we had a program and it had, let's say, 10 turns. So imagine those values were off a bit. So we had a value of 112 for power, but it's like, hey, we actually want 76 for the power. And imagine for all 10 of these, we would have to go in and actually change it. It's like, ugh. So I tested out the program. My robot didn't quite turn far enough or something like that. So it's like, oh man, instead of 112, now I got to do 76. I have to change each one separately. It's like, wow, this is really tedious. This is a pain. Like to have to go and change every single one, that's really annoying. It's like pull your hair out, frustrating. So luckily, with programming, there is something that we could do to solve the problem and make some efficiencies. So there's something called variables. So that's what I'm going to introduce you to now, something called variables. So let's take a look at this. This is an alternative example. Instead of typing and changing every single turn, all 10 of those turns separately, is that we can just establish a variable and change that variable, which will then change all of them for us. And we can, of course, have multiple variables. So then instead of adjusting each value separately, we could actually adjust them all at once. And we can do this very easily. So again, welcome to variables. So let's say instead of having a power of like typing in a number, we actually establish a variable. So this is like just kind of a generic thing here. Let's say variable. We're establishing the variable of power. We're going to establish it with the number of 76. So that means anytime this word power is here, it equals the number 76. So instead of having to go in and type and delete and change every single one, now if I change this to 80, now each one of these will have a power of 80. If I change it to 100, well, each one of these have a power of 100. That is way quicker, way easier, way more fun than typing in each one individually. So that is just one of the benefits of variables. And what happens later on, once your programs get way more complex, you have all kinds of stuff going on in them, different sections of programs and functions and all this kinds of stuff, is that this is just a nice, clean, and easy way to make adjustments in your program very efficiently. Now, if you think about what actually is a variable, what does the word variable mean? Well, a simple way of explaining it is like a variable is something that varies. And that kind of seems like, duh, but a variable is something that varies. So think about in our programs, what are things that have varied? So things that have varied have been, like let's say the motor power for going forward, the motor power for going reverse, the motor power for closing or opening the claw, the motor power for turning. Variables could even just be like, is the button closed or open? Those types of things. So there's all different kinds of variables out there, of course. This lesson is just a very, very quick introduction. So in terms of Robot C, our program, so with our programming language, here are some different variables that they have. So integers is mainly what we'll be focusing on. So these are whole numbers. And if you think about this, this could relate to time. So we could do like, let's say 1 msec, like wait 1 msec. Let's say we want to wait 1,000 milliseconds. So then that would be an integer. And then, for example, like power, so negative 127 to positive 127. And then there's decimal points. There's true or false, so kind of like logic. And then there's also other examples as well. And then it even gets more complicated. You could do like equations and add and those types of things. So I don't want to get into that right now in this lesson. Right now we're just focusing on integers, and the goal is for you to actually apply what you're learning in this lesson to one of your programs. So if we take a look here, here's what it more so looks like in Robot C. Here's how you set up and here's how you use variables. And this is more so, again, this is just integers. So we got task main, which is, again, that's kind of like the very beginning of your program. We got our first brace here. And then usually a good practice for us for right now will just be putting our integers towards the top. So first thing, let's declare our integer stuff. So if you look here, we want to declare the type of variable. So I should say declare your, instead of integer stuff, that should say variable stuff. Declare your variable stuff. So we want to declare our type of variable. So here were our other types. Right now we're just going to use integers. So let's say, hey computer, we want to declare an integer. That's our type. Now we want to name that integer. Let's name a new integer. Let's name it power. So now we named it. We say, hey, integer power. Let's give that integer named power a value of 76. And then underneath that, so then we'll put our program. So this is kind of like declaring all that. Now we can use that word power. And whenever the program sees that word power, it's going to use the number 76. So then here's our program. If I say, hey, motor in port 1, I want you to use power for 2 seconds. So how much power will that robot, or will the motor use right there? Now here's what I want you to imagine. If I change this to 127, what will happen? So let's just take a quick look at actual robot C, an actual program, and just see how it's set up. So we got our task main, we got our open brace. We are declaring a type of variable. It's an integer, and we are calling that forward power. Forward is abbreviated. Forward power equals 76. And then here again, we're declaring this. And what is this? What does this stand for? Next question, what does this, what actually is this? I know it says 3 feet, but what actually is going on there? What are we doing there? And then what is actually this? What are we doing with this number? So if we look at our program, we say, hey, claw motor, we want you for 1 second to be moving with forward power. So what value will this claw motor be moving at? So now if we move here, notice this one says claw motor, we expect it to now open, and we're going to do negative forward power. So then obviously that's negative, as of right now, that'd be negative 76. And now here is a section that uses both of these here, both of our integers. Left motor, we're going to have used negative forward power. The right motor, just normal positive forward power. And then for weight 1 msec, we're going to use 3 feet. So what's really nice is if we're doing this program and we have our robot traveling 3 feet forward or 3 feet backward multiple times, is let's say, oh, I tried it, 1.5 seconds. That wasn't quite enough. So for 3 feet, our integer 3 feet, let's, instead of 1.5 seconds, I need it a little bit longer. Let's try 1.7 seconds. So now this value here would be, according to what we have on the screen here, what value would this be right now? So that's just some of the basics. I want you to think about our programs. If we look here, here are some examples of variables related to our programs right now. Just kind of like intro, like moving the robot around type programs. So your mission is going to be to actually apply what you learn in this lesson to your program and actually insert some integers in your program. Thanks for checking this out.